Hey, what's up guys? I'm Yalek, and this is another Boom Beach video. I've already done a video today, but I wanted to show you very quickly a couple op hits that I've done recently. Now, first of all, keep in mind that I am showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly here. And we'll break that down in a minute. Second of all, keep in mind that I, probably 8-9 months ago, I was in my home task force and we were doing foxtrot for an operation every day. A 50-man, by the way. So, I have had my eyes opened, I guess, to what this game is really about in that intervening time, and I have been practicing like crazy since, using every method available to me to get better. So now, within the course of that amount of time, to go from making useful attacks on foxtrot to making useful attacks on massive attack and forlorn hope is, I think, pretty decent. So I show these hits. I've got one respectable hit and one failed hit. I show these hits with a mixture of, pride and embarrassment, which I know sounds very weird, but pride because, I know where I've come from, and yet embarrassment because I know, I know where other people are. I know where I should be if I had started practicing some of these skills when I was, 2 years ago, when I was in the 40s level. Well, I can see the hits, usually. I can see what needs to be done. But, well, doing it is another matter. So being able to pull off even some of these hits is, well, I don't know. It's something, it's not quite nothing, and it's not where I want to be, but I'll get there. So anyway, this is a bit of redemption for me because I ran at Orbifold probably 4 or 5 days ago in this task force, cleared it with an officer first. This is a practice and teaching task force, and the officer, they really encourage practice, experimentation in this task force. This is a Zedmont task force. This is small 9, and I am only here temporarily. I'll go back to my main task force after I've, probably in a few more weeks, after I've seen pretty much every base, every hit, every walk that can be done. But they really encourage the teaching here, so I got the okay to run at Orbifold a few days ago and blew it. I didn't get a flare down and then sort of panicked, and then not getting the flare down in the right spot. When I did get a flare down, finally it was in the wrong spot, so my girls took a bad path. Girls take a bad path, then you end up with a bad route, and the bad route means, well, it's just, bad smoking, and it was a bad attack. Bottom line, bad attack. So that was also a damaged Orbifold. This is a badly damaged Orbifold too. So somebody had suggested barting this down, and one of the officers, which I appreciate, responded by saying, the point of being here is to practice. It's better if somebody actually does the walk, which I was quite willing to do. And really, I didn't have to boost for this. It's only 3 shocks. If you look very carefully, you've got a shock down here, you need a shock up here, you need a shock up here. You see the space already where the mines have been cleared. So that's where you're trying to hit from. 330 or 4, with 6 being the bottom of your screen, right? So you don't need a lot of GBE. I think there's only 94,000 left on this core. So it's really just getting there. just get yourself there, do the walk, and that's what I want to do. That's why I'm in this task force. So, you know, this felt like a bit of a redemption to be able to take a second run at this map. This is one of the maps that you know, you should be able to do. It's not an exceptionally long walk. You're going to see this on, let's see, any operation from choke point and up, and it's not that hard. So if you're not capable on this map and a few others, then, well, yeah, you should have this in the bag. So I wanted to do the walk. Anyway, one thing that is handy here, you will notice there are cells down here at the bottom, which is great because those cells, when you throw a smoke, will hold your Zookas in place. They won't try to walk anywhere else because they have something in range. As long as they have something in range, they'll just stay still, which is perfect because that's when you want to smoke them. You've got nice straight lines here. If you look at these towers, they're not staggered or anything, so the Zookas can just walk in a nice straight thin line. So it's a pretty easy walk to do. I mess up a little bit, you'll see in a second, on the smoking. My first two smokes are bad, and you'll see that here. That shouldn't be down yet. I don't know why I threw that so early. I should have waited until about now to smoke, because then I end up with the problem. I threw that second smoke out trying to anticipate and get it out early, but the first smoke expired and then the second smoke was off. The second smoke was offline, and then I ended up peaking with brick a little bit here because I was trying to sort of balance the smokes between brick and the Zookas, and I should have just focused on the Zookas. So some problems there, but here we get the shocks down, and it's really just a one shot with brick and battle orders. The critters could have been back a little bit more. You'll notice that the critters are here and here, and they are with, I mean, they're sitting right next to the Zookas. That's never great. You don't want that. The defenses, all of the pertinent defenses around me at that point were one-hitters. Cannons, boom cannons, sniper towers. So they weren't doing any splash damage, but if there had been anything dealing splash damage within range of me, I would have been just smoked, because those critters really should have been thrown probably about back here, I think, just to create some separation. But anyway, I mean, it was a practice walk. The entire point was the practice, and we got it down. And honestly, even if that had not been a practice walk, that would have been fairly decent. I would have done a good amount of damage, and I'd have been okay with that. Again, doing Foxtrot like 8-9 months ago. So yeah, I would have been okay with that. I'm going to show you also, since we're here, my hit from yesterday's op, which was not successful. This is Ransom, and Ransom is another base where, pause that for a second, Ransom is another base where you should be able to take this on unboosted. This was a pretty easy Ransom too, because I took Bullet, and with Bullet, what that means is you really, in this case, you just have to shock behind. You shock these 5 mortars here, and what you do, I know this path, which is why I had to give this a go. Smoke the beach, obviously, because, you know, stuff like this, which all sucks. Smoke the beach, flare landing, and then your next flare is going to be up here, and smoke your way up there. And then your third flare is going to be here, this machine gun. And what happens is Bullet will get ahead, so he'll get closest to that machine gun, and your Zookas will wrap around behind the core and below the core along the bottom of the core, and then they will wrap around a little bit over into this area too. And so you have to smoke, and, well, at least you have to smoke up here and over in here. And then Bullet, and then obviously shock behind. Bullet what happens, Bullet will take the fire from these machine guns, because you're going to taunt, obviously. That's the whole point of having him. He's also closest to these rockets, and Bullet will then absorb the fire from those rockets. Meanwhile, you're going to have a line of Zookas behind the core and a line of Zookas below the core, and they are just going to sit there with all of this shocked and deliver damage on the core. So it's a pretty cool hit. I made two mistakes. The first and biggest mistake is that getting your smokes down when you wrap the core like this, you gotta get one up here and then one right down here, and that will give you pretty good coverage so you can sit there and do your damage. I tried throwing a third one out here. That one's kind of unnecessary. You're going to have some Zookas that stand over in this area, and they're going to die, and that's unfortunate for them, but they are closest to the rockets, so there's kind of like no protecting them, so I shouldn't have thrown that third smoke. But the real problem was I didn't get this smoke down. Got the one up here, got the one down here. This one didn't land. I got a invalid location message, which is horrible because now you have a giant gap in your smoking and just you're going to get wrecked. And so that's what you'll see here in a second. Also, I did throw this third smoke over here, and that's a waste. It's not even necessary. Those Zookas are going to die. It doesn't matter. The ones that really matter are the ones behind the core up over here, and then the ones below the core over here. The ones up here are being protected by Bullet and his taunt, and just his presence, because he's, by virtue of the fact that he's closest to those rockets. The ones down here are being protected by the shock behind. Sometimes there'll be like a blaster or something over in this area too, so sometimes it'll be two shocks behind. But this was a pretty easy ransom, and this is a ransom that you can do with, I mean, I ran the GBE calculator, so you can do this ransom without boosting if you have full offensive statues. So I saw this, I looked at it for a good bit. Like I said, I ran the GBE calculator, and I kind of had to try. Win, lose, draw, it didn't matter. I just had to give it a go, because this is pretty much why I'm in this task force in the first place. So we still had cryo bomb at this point, obviously. So we cleared some mines there. And I doomed this cryo bomb that went away from me this morning, and that made me really sad. So flare landing, like I said, it's actually a better landing for me. Still work on the smokes on the landing. It's kind of a problem. Flare up to the quarter, tiny bit of a peak, not a huge deal there. Yeah, the smokes on the landing for me, always a bit of an issue. I have a hard time judging where exactly they need to be. Now, so you saw that we flared up to that machine gun, up to that corner, and now we're just smoking along the way. Tiny bit of a peak there, but nothing ended up happening. Not too bad. Alright, so now watch the smokes. It's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, and I missed that middle one. It ended up landing sort of out of bounds, and my girls just get wrecked. And then we've got the ones over here, which, I mean, as soon as the smoke expires, they're going to die. A bullet is not going to be able to help them because they're still in range of these rockets, which are not taunted. So, yeah, that's about as ugly as you can get. Would have been a good attack if I had gotten that middle smoke down. Didn't need the third smoke, really needed the second smoke. Didn't get the second smoke, got the third smoke. Well. But either way, like, nobody complained about it, which is the very nice thing about being in this task force. It's a place for learning, and that's why I'm here. Learning is encouraged, so if you make a bad attack like that, I mean, the guy after you is gonna clean up your mess anyway. And that's what ended up happening. But, you know, you gotta try some things, and there's just no substitute. And when it comes to op maps, there is no substitute for the practice. You can substitute player bases. I mean, we had some friendly challenges going on here and up here, and you can see me there. Those were fairly. One of those was a bullet Zuka attack. One of those was a brick Zuka attack, and you can practice that kind of stuff. You can go onto the Hammerman base builder gallery and you can practice some of these skills. And you can use, I love War Factory. War Factory is fantastic. You can use War Factory as a practice ground. You can use Dr. Terror as a practice ground. All that's great, but none of that is a substitute for op maps, and op maps are bigger and badder and meaner than anything that you'll see in any of those scenarios. So, I will say, I do appreciate this task force because they encourage the learning so much. And again, there's just no other way to get that sort of experience than to go out and do these walks. So anyway, like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly, learning, probably slower than I should be, but learning, and that's something. Anyway, so that's a couple op hits. Don't judge me too harshly. I'm Yalek. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, drop a message, say hi. Take it easy. Have a good night.